Harlem Nights, 1989, remains a cinematic classic featuring an all-star cast, including Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, and Della Reese. Beyond the screen, the lives of these legends were marked by unforeseen tragedies and challenges that forever shaped their paths. From career-altering accidents to personal struggles, the journeys of these stars took unexpected turns. Now, in 2025, we reflect on where they are, how they've coped with life's twists and turns, and the inspiring ways they've navigated the highs and lows since their Hollywood heydays. Their stories remain as compelling as ever. Danny Aiello, who played the crooked and hot-headed police officer Phil Contoni in Harlem Nights, was 56 years old when the film hit theaters in 1989. Known for his explosive temper and morally bankrupt persona in the role, Aiello delivered a chilling performance. Despite a promising Hollywood career, his post-Harlem Nights years were riddled with missteps and missed opportunities. After a bitter divorce from opera singer Sandy Cohen, whom he married in the early 60s, Aiello distanced himself from his 3 children, Thomas, Maria, and Vincent, following a series of custody battles and public family disputes. Professionally, he struggled with typecasting and fell into depression as his roles diminished. A failed restaurant venture in Queens and multiple IRS investigations over unpaid taxes only added to his woes. Plagued by chronic health problems and estranged from much of his family, he died on December 12, 2019, at age 86 due to an infection following a routine medical procedure. His estate, once valued at over $5 million, had dwindled to an estimated $800,000 at the time of his death. Richard Pryor, portraying the wise and weary club owner Sugar Ray, was 49 during the release of Harlem Nights. Pryor's performance, marked by subtle humor and gravitas, stood in sharp contrast to the chaos unfolding behind the scenes in his own life. Afflicted with multiple sclerosis by the early 90s, Pryor's career sharply declined, and so did his health. He was married 7 times to 5 different women, none of whom could weather his bouts of addiction, rage, and emotional volatility. He fathered 7 children: Richard Jr., Elizabeth, Rain, Kelsey, Franklin, Stephen, and Renee, but his relationships with them were complicated by years of neglect and substance abuse. Despite moments of clarity and comeback attempts, Pryor remained a tragic figure, haunted by trauma from his childhood and abuse he suffered. His final years were spent confined to a wheelchair, his once razor-sharp wit dulled by illness. He died on December 10, 2005, at the age of 65 from a heart attack. His estate was estimated at $2.5 million, much of it contested by ex-wives and children in a long, drawn-out legal battle. Red Fox, in his role as the foul-mouthed and unlucky old-timer Benny Wilson, brought both comic relief and soulful vulnerability to Harlem Nights at age 67. Known best for his sitcom fame, Fox hoped the film would reignite his career. But financial turmoil dogged him. After a series of tax disputes, he declared bankruptcy in the late 1980s. Married 4 times, including to Korean dancer Ka Ho Cho near the end of his life, his personal life was a revolving door of infidelity, jealousy, and explosive fights. He never had children, a lifelong regret he often spoke about during his final stand-up tours. Fox suffered from loneliness and bitterness in his later years, living modestly in Las Vegas, often taking small gigs just to stay afloat. On October 11, 1991, while rehearsing on set for a new sitcom comeback, he collapsed from a massive heart attack. Ironically, many thought he was joking, mirroring his famous act. He died at 68, leaving behind an estate worth less than $50,000 and a legacy as a comic genius shadowed by unfulfilled potential and relentless financial misery. Eddie Murphy, who embodied the smooth-talking, street-smart Quick in Harlem Nights, was only 28 when the film was released. His character's swagger mirrored Murphy's real-life charisma, but the film's lukewarm reception marked the beginning of a turbulent stretch in his career. Despite blockbuster hits that followed, Murphy endured waves of scandal, from a 1997 trans sex worker controversy to box office flops in the 2000s that left critics doubting his range. Murphy has fathered 10 children with 5 women, including Spice Girl Mel B, and endured 2 failed marriages, most notably to Nicole Mitchell. Though known for lavish spending, his relationships with several of his children, like Christian and Angel, were marked by public disputes and long silences. Murphy's family life has often been chaotic, marred by custody battles and legal wrangling. As of 2025, Murphy is 64 and lives reclusively in Beverly Hills. Though he returned briefly to stand up and film, he largely avoids the spotlight. Despite his past troubles, Murphy's estate is estimated at $180 million, built on a legacy of highs and lows that continues to fascinate Hollywood insiders. Della Reese, who played Vera in Harlem Nights, was 58 years old during the film's release in 1989. As the no-nonsense madam with a sharp tongue and a mean right hook, Reese brought both sass and strength to the role. While her performance was praised, the years following were marred by a turbulent personal life. Married 4 times, her longest union to concert promoter Franklin Lett Jr. was strained by his infidelity and her grueling work schedule. They had 1 adopted daughter, Dominique, but their family life was far from peaceful, with years of emotional distance and resentment. Reese also endured 5 tragic personal losses in the 1990s, including the death of her only biological daughter, Della Reese, from a pituitary disorder, which devastated her. She battled type 2 diabetes, financial difficulties following a failed gospel label, and estrangement from close friends. Despite these setbacks, she maintained her faith, though privately she admitted to deep depression in later years. Reese passed away in her Los Angeles home on November 19, 2017, at the age of 86, from complications related to diabetes. Her estate was estimated at $850,000, much diminished from earlier wealth due to medical expenses and charitable giving. Berlinda Tolbert, portraying Annie in Harlem Nights, was 40 years old at the time of the film's release. Known for her earlier role as Jenny Willis on The Jeffersons, Tolbert's appearance in the film was intended to mark a comeback. Instead, it became her final notable role. Her post-film career languished in obscurity, with scattered guest appearances that never led to steady work. She married journalist Bob Reed in the late 1980s, but their marriage slowly unraveled due to her increasing withdrawal from public life and ongoing struggles with anxiety. They had 1 son, Darren, who battled drug addiction and was incarcerated in the early 2000s, further fracturing the family. Tolbert spent years caring for her ailing mother and dealing with her own financial instability, having sold their family home to pay debts. A recluse in her later years, she gave no interviews and rarely appeared in public. Now 76 years old, she lives alone in North Carolina with limited contact with former colleagues. Her estate is estimated at $250,000, consisting mainly of retirement savings and modest royalties. Stan Shaw, in the role of Jack Jenkins, was 37 years old when Harlem Nights hit theaters. Playing a soft-spoken but loyal fighter, Shaw delivered a heartfelt performance that hinted at greater stardom. However, the promise of his career dimmed in the shadow of the film's mixed reviews and Hollywood's reluctance to cast him in leading roles. He married stage actress Melanie Dorsey in 1992, but the union dissolved within 6 years amid reports of infidelity and emotional distance. They had 2 children, Marcus and Selena, both of whom became estranged after their father's prolonged absences during filming. Shaw endured the suicide of his younger brother in 2004, a tragedy that deeply scarred him and led to years of therapy. He also faced financial hardships due to failed investments, and had to file for bankruptcy in 2010. Though still acting occasionally, he now lives in a small apartment in Burbank, California. At 73 years old, Shaw has a modest estate estimated at $180,000, sustained largely through residual checks and minor roles in TV crime dramas. Jasmine Guy, who played the sultry and dangerous Dominique LaRue, was 27 years old when Harlem Nights premiered. Her role as a seductive assassin was a standout, yet it did little to secure her lasting success in film. Following the collapse of A Different World, she struggled to redefine her career, facing typecasting and fewer offers. Her marriage to Terrence Duckett in 1998 was short-lived, ending in a bitter divorce in 2008. They had one daughter, Imani, and a fierce custody battle followed, leaving Guy emotionally and financially drained. She also cared for her ailing mother through a long illness while simultaneously battling chronic back pain and depression. At one point, she taught theater in Atlanta just to make ends meet. Despite brief resurgences in television and stage, she never recaptured the prominence of her youth. Now 63, Guy remains active in regional theater and advocacy work for women's mental health, though she lives modestly. Her estate is currently estimated at $300,000, reflective of sporadic acting work and a few well-managed investments. Big Polizos, who played Richie Vento in Harlem Nights, was 39 years old when the film premiered in 1989. His character, a small-time enforcer with more brawn than brains, added comic edge to the gritty narrative. Though he showed promise with his intense screen presence, Polizos struggled to find meaningful roles after the film. Typecast and often overlooked, his career waned by the mid-90s. He married Greek-American sculptor Tessa Karolis in 1991, but the union crumbled under financial stress and Polizos' growing depression. They had one son, Nikos, who became estranged after Polizos' second rehab stint. Estranged from most of his family, he suffered a nervous breakdown in 2007 and quietly moved to a small apartment in Fresno. Though he made minor TV appearances, the big break never returned. Now 75, Polizos lives in relative obscurity, supported by Social Security and a dwindling pension from SAG-AFTRA. He's often seen at community centers, performing amateur theater for therapy. Friends say he remains haunted by missed opportunities. His estate is currently estimated at $150,000, mostly consisting of his small condo and sparse royalties. Della Rashan, portraying the seductive sunshine in Harlem Nights, was 25 years old during the film's release. Her unforgettable scene, where her character's allure throws a gangster's life into chaos, made her an instant icon. But after brief success in the 1990s, Rashan's career slowed dramatically. She married director Antoine Fuqua in 1999, but their marriage faced persistent rumors of infidelity, culminating in a public scandal in 2019. The couple had 2 children, Asia and Brando, but their home was marked by tension and media scrutiny. Rashan retreated from acting, citing anxiety and disillusionment with Hollywood's treatment of black actresses. In her 50s, she attempted a comeback with indie films, but none gained traction. Now 61, she divides her time between caring for her ailing mother and running a modest wellness blog. Despite the pain of betrayal and a career left unfulfilled, she speaks of healing and self-worth. Her estate is valued at around $400,000, with most of it tied up in a modest Los Angeles home she inherited from her father. Thomas McElford, in the role of Tommy Smalls in Harlem Nights, brought a likable energy to the screen at just 25 years old. Known for his comedic timing, Ford's turn in the film hinted at his potential, later fulfilled in the series Martin. However, behind the camera, his life was filled with struggle. After a brief marriage to actress Gina Sasso, they divorced in 1997. They had 2 children, Madison and Thomas Jr., but co-parenting was often strained. Financial issues plagued him in the 2000s, as poor management and child support disputes drained his resources. Ford turned to motivational speaking, hoping to inspire at-risk youth, though privately he battled depression and loneliness. In 2016, a ruptured abdominal aneurysm ended his life at just 52. His funeral was quiet, attended by close friends and castmates. At the time of his death, Ford's estate was estimated at $200,000, including residuals from past work and a modest condo in Atlanta. He was remembered fondly as a generous soul whose light dimmed too soon. Desi Arnaz Hines too, who portrayed young Quick in Harlem Nights, was just 12 when the film premiered. His youthful portrayal of Eddie Murphy's character in his early days brought a rare innocence to the gritty setting. Though the role garnered early attention, Hollywood's door never fully opened for him. By his late teens, Hines found himself out of work and disillusioned. He attempted college but dropped out amid substance abuse issues. In his early 30s, he married dance instructor Lonnie Morales. They had one daughter, Kalani, but the marriage fell apart within 4 years due to Hines's growing withdrawal and anger issues. His relationship with his daughter remains distant. Now 48, Hines lives in a shared apartment in Long Beach, making ends meet as a substitute teacher and part-time Uber driver. He occasionally attends comic conventions, where a few fans still remember his brief moment in Harlem Nights. He refuses interviews, haunted by the weight of early promise. His estimated estate is around $50,000, a reflection of a life marked by unrealized potential and lingering regret. Robin Harris, who played Jerome in Harlem Nights, was 36 years old during the film's 1989 release. Known for his booming voice and raw, streetwise humor, his portrayal brought a gritty authenticity to the character. At the peak of his rising career, tragedy struck. Harris died suddenly of a heart attack on March 18, 1990, at only 36. Behind the laughter was a man burdened by personal demons. He struggled with hypertension and stress, often pushing himself too hard on tour. Married to Cheryl Harris, the couple had one son, Robin Jr., born just months before his death. His marriage, while loving, was strained by long absences and the pressure of fame. Harris had a troubled relationship with his extended family, often caught between financial obligations and emotional distance. His early life was marked by poverty, a turbulent home, and years of hustling through the comedy circuit. His death left an irreplaceable void in the world of stand-up. Despite his short-lived career, he was revered for his unique voice and pioneering routines. His estate was estimated at around $250,000 at the time of his death, most of which was placed in trust for his son. Robin Harris remains a beloved figure whose legacy outlived his time on Earth. Charlie Murphy, portraying Jimmy in Harlem Nights, was 30 years old when the film premiered. He brought a cool, no-nonsense presence to the role, balancing street smarts with dry humor. Though often overshadowed by his younger brother Eddie Murphy, Charlie carved out a voice of his own in the industry. His post-Harlem Nights career was a rocky road, filled with bit parts and long dry spells before finding a second wind in sketch comedy. He married Tisha Taylor in 1997, and they had 2 children, Xavier and Eva. Their marriage endured her long illness until her passing in 2009, a blow from which Charlie never fully recovered. He also had a son, Anthony, from a previous relationship, which was fraught with custody battles and resentment. Charlie struggled with leukemia quietly, choosing to keep his illness private until his death on April 12, 2017, at the age of 57. His life was marked by loss, loneliness, and a deep sense of having lived in someone else's shadow. Still, he was celebrated for his raw honesty and late-blooming brilliance. At the time of his passing, his estate was estimated at $2.5 million, much of it earned through touring and writing. Reynaldo Rey, who played the minor but memorable role of the soldier at Club in Harlem Nights, was 49 years old when the film was released. A seasoned comedian and character actor, Rey had a knack for elevating even the smallest roles with his expressive face and sharp delivery. Though always working, Rey never quite escaped the margins of Hollywood. After Harlem Nights, he drifted between low-budget films and stand-up gigs in modest clubs. Married early in his career to dancer Yvonne Dolores, their union ended in a bitter divorce after the loss of their only child, Marcus, to a car accident in 1987, a tragedy that haunted Rey for the rest of his life. He never remarried, and spent much of his later years isolated, bouncing between motels and smaller stages. Ray suffered several strokes in his 70s and passed away on May 28, 2015, at the age of 75, from complications related to a stroke. His estate was modest, estimated at around $100,000, much of which went toward unpaid medical bills and funeral costs. Though he never achieved leading man status, Ray's impact on comedy and character acting is remembered fondly by his peers. Who is your favorite character from Harlem Nights? How does it feel knowing that some of the actors are no longer with us? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this type of content, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on future uploads. Thank you for your support.